Okay, today's lecture, I'm going to talk about string. So this is section 2.4, strings, and you can think string as a sequence of characters. String is a sequence of characters, and you know that so the string literals are specified enclosing a sequence of characters within a matching pair of either single or double quote. So you can use either single or double quotes. So here is the, so in this case they use the single quote, right? And so is this, they use what? They use a single quote for this, and they use a double quote, right? So you can use either single quote or the double quotes to present a string. Okay. Let's see. And another important functions that you need to use with a string is a function called len. So len means the length. So if you want to find number of characters in string, you have to use a function called len, the length. So in this case, let's say to find out how many characters within the string, you use the function len, right? So in this case, W, O, R, L, D, and exclamation, right? So it's a total of 6 characters. This function will take the word string as an input argument and returns the number of characters in this string, so which is a 6. So this will print 6. So let's do that. So please open your Python shell. So this is your Python shell, right? And then file, new file. Okay, and so this is your editor, text editor, right? And then let's just try this example, len. So let's learn, okay. So this is comment, right? This is comment. And let's just type this example. So let's say first you have to create a variable. I'm going to create a variable called length, right? And it's equal to, at this point, whenever you use a variable name and then you use equal assignment symbol, then there's a variable is created. The name of this variable is length, right? And I'm going to use a function len, right? And this function len need an argument, input argument, which is a string. So W, O, R, L, D, exclamations, and enclosed by double quote, right? So this, so by the way, this is comment. This len functions will return, since number of characters in this string is 6, return 6, right? So let's find out using the print functions, print and the length. Okay, it's supposed to, now it should print 6. Run and run module. Yes, I'm going to save it. Let's see. I need to create a, I'm going to create document, and then let's see. I'm going to just create a function, the directory. Let's see, new directory folder, and I'm going to call it Python test code lecture, let's say code. And then the name of the file, I'll just say string, let's say string example, right? 1. I mean, you can use any file name you want. So in my case, I'm going to use a string dash example1. You can use any name you want. So I'm going to save it, and it prints 6, right? So this is something that, and if you don't like the format, you can add, you know, the print function, right? This is a functions, and right now this function print has only one argument, which is a length, which is this variable, right? And you know the print can have many input arguments. So if you don't like about this format, you can add a little bit more. Let's say length is colon, and then, so this is string, right? And then you need to use separate comma. So this print function has right now 2 arguments, right? One is the string, right? And then separated by the comma, right? And the second argument is the variable name, length. So it's going to print the value, right? Remember, it's going to print the value of the variable, not the variable name. So it's going to print length is 6. So let's just run this. Right? Length is 6, right? Good. So now there's a string length. It's a very important function, the len, right? Please remember. And then also this is very important operator. It's this plus. You know that plus is used with the numbers, right? But in Python, when the string is, I mean this plus sign, this plus operator is used with the strings, then you're going to use it as a concatenator, right? So example is, let's say variable name equal, right? So you never remember that whenever you have variable name and equal sign, then the first name is created Harry, and then last name is Morgan. So you create a variable name called last name, and the value of that variable name is Morgan, string Morgan. And if you use this plus operator, right, first name, and this, I mean this, if this concatenator is applied to this 2 strings, that it is going to concatenate these 2 strings. So your name is going to be Harry and Morgan. Okay, so you know that, remember, using plus to concatenate strings is an example of a concept called operator overloading, but you don't have to really know the name at this point. Just know that it's this plus is not, when it's used with string, it's going to concatenate 2 strings, right? So let's just follow this example using Python shell. So this is next example. Let's say first name. I'm going to create a variable called first name. So in order to create a variable, you used to use a variable name, right? A variable name with an equal sign. That means you create a variable called first name. The name and then the contents of this variable name is, let's say, what? Kevin, right? And then let's create another variable, second last name, or okay, so let's say last name and is equal to, that means you create a variable, right? At this point you have just created a variable name called last name, and the contents of the variable name is going to, the value of the variable is going to be Kevin, let's say Snow, right? And if you want to concatenate these 2 strings, right, then you need a concatenator operator, right? And then you're going to combine that 2 strings and then store in that value, right, to a new variable called, let's say, full name. So this is your new variable name, right, full name. And then you have just created a variable called full name, and then I'm going to concatenate these 2 strings, Kevin Snow. So I'm going to use a plus operator, concatenate operator. So first name plus, and the last name, right? So this is the example of string concatenation. String concatenation, okay, right? Good. So this is the example of string concatenation. And then let's just print out the value in the variable full name. So print, I'll say full name is colon, and then let's say full name, right? Okay. If you do that, let's just run this. So the full name is Kevin Snow. So this is not really readable, right? Kevin, and let's say if you want to put some space between Kevin and Snow, what you can do is, by the way, the concatenation, this concatenator operator can be used and applied to many, like many number of basically strings. So not just two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some space, right, between first name and last name, and then I'm going to use another concatenator operator plus. So this is going to be first name, right, then followed by some a space, then the last name. Okay, so let's just run this. So now you see the space, Kevin, space, right? Kevin followed by space and followed by Snow. Kevin Snow. As you can see, there is a space. Okay, now that's the string concatenation. So next topic, let's just skip this string repetition. It's not really important. And by the way, this is very important. String and characters. Actually, converting the number to string. This is a very important topic. So in this slide, you have to know two functions. The first one is a string function, str. The string function to convert basically from number, right? Number to a string. And there is another important function. It's called int, or the float. This function is going to convert the string into an integer. Okay, so let's just follow this example. Let's say I'm going to use this function string functions. This is what? Convert. This function is convert a string. Convert a number to a string. Okay, so this is very important function for you to know. Let's say you have. So let's just follow this example. Let's say you have balance. It's, let's say, 888. So this is like a number, right? And if you want to convert this number to a string, meaning that, for example, then you can use a function called string. So this one is balance, let's say as balance, let's say string, or you can use underscore string. It's really up to you. Then you can use a function called string, str, and then you can use, as an input, you have to put a number. The string will take any number as an input and returns a string of that, returns basically a string. So 888 is a number, right? So basically, this number will convert it as a string, as something of a type string. So let's say this is going to be now 888 string. Okay. And now you can say print balance string. Okay. And then let's just run this example. Yes, so it's going to print 888, right? Okay. Another good example that you can use this string function is, let's say, okay, I think this is a good example at the end. Okay, so if you look at the, there's a really good example. Okay. Okay, so, well, I'll just talk about this example later, but, you know, right for now, you know that string is a functions, right, which will convert a number to a string. So that's something that you should know. The example is string, is used, in this example, string is take 888 number, right, as an input argument and returns a string, right? So please remember string functions. And there's another function that you should know is int function, int or float. So this is like opposite. This int or float function is that convert a string to an integer. So let's say, so we're going to talk about int functions or the float. Right, so this is a function. So let's say you have a string 1729. By the way, 1729 is not a number, right? 127, because it's enclosed by double string, that means 1729 is a string. And you want this convert to an integer value, then you either use, or if you want to convert this to a float, like 17, in this case, the next example is you have number, the string is 17.29. If you want to convert it into some decimal point number like a 17.29, then you need to use a function float. So let's say id, and then it's equal to, you use a function int, and then you have 1729. So this function int integer, the function int will take string as an argument and convert it into the number the decimal, the integer number 1729. So basically this convert 1729 as a string, right? And then it's going to convert it into real number 1729. Okay, so let's say print id, right? Then we'll print 1729, and then let's look at our next example, the price. Let's say you have a price is equal to float, and you have 17.29 as a string, right? And the float is a function that will take 1729 string as an input and then returns a real number 17.29. So this is you have a string 17.29. This is not a number, this is a string, and this is we convert 17.29. Okay, so let's print price. Okay, so let's run this run module. Okay, so now you have it's going to print, this is number 1729, and this is what? This is a 17.29, right? So now that this is a number, it's not a string. Okay, so I'm going to end my lecture here.